Hello everybody, my name is Troy and I'll be doing a presentation on overweight and obesity among adolescents and dietary recommendations to combat both overweight and obesity. First, I would like to start off by defining what overweight and obesity is. The World Health Organization defines overweight and obesity as an abnormal or excessive fat accumulation that may impair health. BMI is a way to determine adults who are underweight, normal weight, overweight, or obese. Underweight is defined as a BMI of less than 18.5. Adults who are normal weight have a BMI between 18.5 and 24.99. Adults who are overweight have a BMI between 25.0 and 29.99. Adults who have class 1 obesity have a BMI between 30.0 and 34.99. Adults who have class 2 obesity have a BMI between 35.0 and 39.0. And adults who have class 3 obesity have a BMI greater than or equal to 40. There are many risk factors for both overweight and obesity. These include family history, genes, race and ethnicity, food insecurity, and lack of physical activity. There have been specific genes associated with both overweight and obesity. This case study looked at a 14-year-old female who was gaining between 10 and 15 pounds per year for the past 6 years. She lives at home with her parents and her younger siblings. And there's a family history of obesity, hyperlipidemia, and type 2 diabetes. An analysis of the patient's 3-day food log shows that she is consuming high fat, high sugar, and high sodium foods and beverages. Family also reports that they frequently eat food out. The patient reports that she tends to eat lunch at school. And her parents report that sometimes they end up running out of food before the end of the month. The following is a list of nutrient intake recommendations for a 14-year-old female who is lightly to moderately active. Given that the patient in this case study is sedentary, it's recommended that her total caloric intake be closer to 1,800 rather than the recommended 2,400 calories per day for a lightly to moderately active 14-year-old female. The results of the 3-day food log for this patient shows that her total caloric intake per day on average is about 2,900 calories per day. This is approximately 1,000 calories per day greater than what is recommended for this patient. It also shows that her total saturated fat intake is approximately 42 grams per day. As a percent of calories, this is about 13%, which is greater than the recommended 10% or less of calories from saturated fat per day. Looking at her vitamin and mineral intake over the past 3 days, it looks as though her sodium intake is very high. On average, her sodium intake is approaching 5,000 milligrams per day. The patient in this case study is 62 inches tall, weighs 152.9 pounds, has a BMI of 28. Her stature for age is in the 30th percentile. Her weight for age is in the 95th percentile. And her BMI for age is in the 96th percentile. Remembering back to the BMI classifications, those were for adults. Given that this patient is a 14-year-old female, it's more important to look at the percentile for weight for age and for BMI for age. Given her specific percentiles for weight for age and BMI for age, she would be considered obese. The results of the patient's labs show that her fasting glucose level is high, her HDL cholesterol is low, and her LDL cholesterol is high. The nutrition-focused physical exam shows that the patient is obese appearing, she has no edema, and her strength is 5 out of 5 bilaterally. An appropriate nutrition diagnosis for this patient would be excessive energy intake related to lack of access to healthy food and beverage choices, as evidenced by being in the 96th percentile for BMI for age, and reports of lack of funds to purchase enough food for the entire month. Recommendations for this patient should include increasing fruit and vegetable intake and increasing whole grain intake and low-fat dairy intake. She should also increase her physical activity level. The specific nutrition interventions will include a 3-day menu plan, 60 minutes of physical activity per day, and connecting her family to various different food assistance programs that can assist them with purchasing healthy food and beverage choices. A recommended 3-day menu would look like the following. For day 1 for breakfast, she could have pancakes with strawberries, apple juice, and turkey sausage links. For lunch, she could have a tuna fish sandwich on whole wheat bread with grapes and skim milk. And for dinner, she could have a Greek-style salad with light Greek dressing and skim milk. Day 2 of her recommended menu can look like the following. For breakfast, she can have eggs, whole wheat toast, 100% orange juice, and turkey bacon. For lunch, she can have a boneless, skinless chicken breast sandwich on whole wheat bread with reduced fat cheese, light mayonnaise, a cup of vegetable soup on the side, a large apple, and skim milk. For dinner, she can have a salad with tomatoes and onions, light salad dressing, a cup of skim milk, and she can add deli-style turkey breasts into her salad for protein. Day 3 of her recommended menu could look like the following. For breakfast, she could have oatmeal with blueberries, whole wheat toast, and 100% vegetable juice. For lunch, she could have 2 whole wheat tortillas with light sour cream, shredded Mexican cheese, diced tomatoes, shredded lettuce, and a cup of milk. For dinner, she can have a salad with boneless, skinless chicken breast, mashed potatoes, fat-free poultry gravy on her potatoes, and 1 cup of canned carrots. As a snack, she can have non-fat vanilla yogurt with a 1/4 cup of blueberries and some honey almond granola. This recommended 3-day menu provides food and beverages from all the different recommended categories for this patient. A nutrient analysis of her recommended 3-day menu shows that her total calorie intake on average will be about 1,780 calories, which is slightly below the recommended 1,800 calorie intake per day for this patient. It is showing that her carbohydrate intake, her fat intake, saturated fat intake, and her protein intake are all within target limits for this patient. A nutrient analysis of her 3-day menu plan shows that her sodium intake on average would be about 3,400 milligrams per day. While this is still above the recommended amounts, it is still significantly less than what she was consuming prior to this new 3-day menu recommendation. There are many programs available that can help both the patient and her entire family consume healthy and nutritious meals. For example, one of these programs that is provided in public schools is the National School Breakfast Program. This program is available to students who come from economically disadvantaged backgrounds, and breakfast must include, at a minimum, 1 cup of fruit, 1 ounce of grains, preferably whole grains, and 1 cup of fat-free or 1% milk. They must also contain, at most, 600 calories. Less than 10% of total calories must come from saturated fat, and there must be less than 640 milligrams of sodium. There is also the National School Lunch Program that is available to economically disadvantaged students. This provides free or reduced lunch to students and must include, at a minimum, 1 cup of fruit, 1 cup of vegetables, 2 ounces of grains, preferably from whole grains, 2 ounces of a meat or a meat alternative, and 1 cup of fat-free or 1% milk. Lunches can be no more than 850 calories. 10% of the calories must come from saturated fat, and there must be no more than 1,420 milligrams of sodium per lunch meal. Her parents may also be eligible for SNAP. SNAP is a federal program that helps economically disadvantaged families obtain nutritious and healthy meals. Under SNAP, there's a program called SNAP Ed. SNAP Ed is designed to assist SNAP recipients with grocery shopping planning, how to prepare and cook meals at home, and how to increase physical activity. All of these will help fulfill the patient's goals of increasing her physical activity and increasing her intake of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, low-fat dairy, and protein, while at the same time limiting her sodium and saturated fat intake. To monitor the progress of this patient, I would like to redraw her labs on her next wild child visit. I would like to reassess her BMI for age and her weight for age, and I would also like to do a new food diary analysis at her next visit.